Welcome to Comics with Dan. This is the Comics Commute number 25. Big milestone here. I was in New York this past week, so I did not get a chance to read a ton. Although I read Mouse, and like I said, I don't think I'm going to cover that here, just because it feels like a bit more serious than the more casual tone that the Comics Commute takes. So like I said, I might write something on it. I don't know that I feel particularly qualified to speak on it, but I will say that it's not only a book that every comic reader should read, but I think everyone should read it. It's an extremely important piece. Yeah, I mean, it should definitely be on reading lists across across the world, really. So I did read last week. I read Batman Superman World's Finest number 29, Dan Moore's last issue, at least for a while, and I read Nightwing 116, part 3 of 5 of the Fallen Grayson arc. So I will be discussing those briefly. Upcoming this week, I have No One number 10, I have Void Rivals number 11, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 1, which, from what I've heard, the pre-orders are just off the charts for that book. So we'll see how that goes. I also started reading Neil Gaiman's The Sandman, book 1. I think that I'm only one issue in, so I can't judge so far. I can see why people like it, and I did like the first issue for the most part. It was a little odd, which, I mean, that's to be expected, but it didn't fully capture me, I think, quite as much as it seems to have some people. But I'm one issue in, and I have book 1, which I think collects more than just like the first 6 issues. It looks like it's probably like at least the first 12. So that'll be interesting to follow along and see how I like that one. Batman Superman World's Finest number 29 was the end of the Implosion arc, and it ended the same way that it started, with an extremely whimsical bang. This story arc ends with we get to see a reveal of what Batmite looks like under his mask, which I think is fun. So the story that we see is this sort of cosmic, reality warping sort of explosion of color and cartooniness. The story itself, though, I feel like what Wade's trying to accomplish is sort of a commentary on, I think, possibly 2 things, right? The 2 things that he's trying to touch on are sort of idolatry and idolizing heroes and the dangers of that, which you can obviously see with Batmite and Batman. And then sort of the opposite of that with Mr. Mxyzptlk and Superman. He does not idolize him. The second piece that I think Wade is trying to get across is changing times. Batmite goes throughout this arc talking about how, there used to be all these great adventures that they would have, and, all the stuff you see in, like, the new Batman Adventures cartoon from the 60s, which I think is where I have my most Batmite experience. And it's just, he thinks that it's still all this fun game, and Batman saying, well, it's not like that anymore. And I think that is a commentary on both the comics industry and the world as a whole, really, because both of those things, the world and comics, have changed significantly. Now, what I really liked that Wade did at the end of this story is, even though he expressed that that times have changed and we aren't in this sort of whimsical cartoony time anymore. Both in comics and in the real world. Wade still shows that there is a place for fun and lightheartedness by sort of making this arc in general, right? It's not something that takes itself too seriously. And at the same time, you look at the character design on Doomite, and it is taking itself extremely seriously. Just this sort of grotesque looking thing. But I mean, we end with, I see Batman laugh harder than I've ever seen him laugh in a comic. And you don't see him laugh in comics in general. So it's nice to see that. And I think it was really a nice ending to the Dan Mora run of World's Finest. So, I mean, I'm keeping this book on my pull list until it's gone. So I just really hope that Dan Mora being off the book doesn't hurt sales so much that they have to stop the book, because that would be extremely disappointing. So Nightwing 116 is part 3 of 5 of the Fallen Grayson arc, which this is the final arc of Tom Taylor and Bruno Redondo's run. I really like what Tom Taylor's doing here. I'm extremely bummed that I saw spoilers on like, it was like Wednesday morning, that people were posting pictures of Bruce in Nightwing's costume. And I realized that on the cover of issue number 117, that you can see like the silhouette of Nightwing with the bat ears, and there was speculation that it was going to be Bruce in the Nightwing suit, but it wasn't confirmed. And I still think that that's a spoiler. I don't think you post the final page of a comic the day that it comes out in the morning. I mean, my comic store doesn't open until 11, and I saw those spoilers at like 9. So, you know, I understand people get things digitally earlier, and that's fine, but like, don't post pages from the issue, especially the last page. But either way, I really like what Tom Taylor's doing. This is shaping up. This is going to be, I think, either the best arc of his run or just a close second to the original, the first Leaping into the Light arc. I mean, we see Dick Grayson has been framed, so he's on the run, and he needs to figure out why he's afraid of heights and how he can overcome that. And he goes to see Boston Brand, which I think is a nice touch. Tom Taylor's been building to this fear of heights for close to a year. I think that depending on how he sticks the landing, will formulate my opinion on whether or not this was a good choice to go with. And I think the reason is that if it's just like someone slipped him something and now he's afraid, then that's one thing. But if he can establish a deeper meaning to it, then I think that that's probably for the best. Yeah, I mean, I think that this arc is shaping up to be a really nice bookend to the run. I love the idea of Bruce taking over as Nightwing. I think I would have rather seen Tim Drake do it, just because I think that Tim Drake looks a little more like Dick Grayson does. No one's gonna look at, because the whole point, I think that the whole point of Bruce being Nightwing is that Heartless is calling out to Nightwing, saying like, you gotta show up, and Heartless knows that Nightwing won't show up because he knows that Dick Grayson's Nightwing. So the I think that it's a cool idea, but I don't think that Bruce is fooling anyone, because he looks completely different than Dick. Whereas I think Tim Drake looks a bit more like Dick Grayson. And I think that, you know, we can suspend our belief for comics for a little bit. And I do think that, like, poetically, it makes more sense for Bruce to take Nightwing's place. just because, you know, we've seen it happen the other way, where Dick took the mantle of Batman. So it's a nice little, you know, reverse there, a nice flip. So overall, I mean, I like it. I really like how Taylor handled the Titans being in Bloodhaven. I feel like a lot of this could have been resolved by the Titans showing up, but the fact that Heartless calls for the Titans to get out of Bloodhaven, and Oracle says, yeah, you should probably get out because of the optics of the situation, and on top of that, the reputation that the Titans have after the events of Beast World. So I think that makes sense. I like whenever writers sort of address those sort of things in the corner. And yeah, so I think that this is going to be good. I mean, if you haven't been following the Nightwing run, this isn't something that you can jump into and sort of enjoy, I guess, to its fullest. So I think that, you know, I'm sure that they'll collect a Tom Taylor Nightwing omnibus, and there's obviously the trades and the hardcovers. I have a hardcover of Leaping Into the Light, and I have a bunch of the single issues from after that up until now. So I might try to fill the gaps in with those. I skipped the Titans arc, and I skipped the Beast World arc just because I needed to cut some stuff on my pull list, and those felt like interruptions to the main story, which I just wanted the main story. But yeah, Nightwing 116, definitely going to be a nice ending here. So this week, No One number 10. This is the final issue. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that my comic store has it, because this No One is a book that in the past they've, for whatever reason, really struggled to get to me on time. I'm really excited for it. We finished last issue with just these riots and the aftermath of Prop 87 being signed, which is, if you're not reading the series, essentially a preemptive self-defense law where you can defend yourself from someone if you feel like you are threatened, which is a crazy law to put into place. So obviously there's a crazy aftermath to it, with a lot of dire consequences. But the story overall, it really, the penultimate, overall, it was what I really liked about it as a penultimate issue is that it literally ends on the stage being set to where we figure out that Richard Rowe is Aaron, and it's always been him. And it's him showing up to the blast furnaces and I can't remember the name of them right now, but it's him showing up to the blast furnaces where it all started. All right, we have been told what happened at those blast furnaces during the original Richard Rowe murders, but we have not seen it. I think that in this issue we're going to see what happened in the original, and it's going to parallel to what happens this time, because no one's going to meet him there, I imagine. And I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't figure out who No One is. I wouldn't be surprised at all if No One's identity isn't revealed. And during San Diego Comic-Con this week, we see a sequel series to this announced. I wouldn't be mad about that. Obviously, I want to know who No One is, but I think that it sort of makes sense story-wise to not know who he is, because he, I think, sort of represents the public consciousness where, you know, all of us think these things about these corrupt politicians, and when we talk about them in our personal conversations, we talk about, you know, like, well, I would do this differently, I would do this, he should be in jail, like, he shouldn't be in office, like, all that stuff, right? And it's all talk. Well, I think that No One is essentially our true feelings on these corrupt people personified, and taking action. Obviously in the story he's like a real person. I'm not suggesting that they end the story with them saying no one wasn't real the whole time. No one was you all along. But I think that the parallel here is that no one represents us. And since no one represents us, giving him a real face, I think might sort of lessen that. Now, I don't know. I mean, he could just be, you know, one of the people that we've seen in the story so far. Alejandro. That's a possibility. I don't know. I mean, we'll have to see. But I wouldn't be mad if they ended it that way. And I do think that there's going to be a no one announcement at San Diego Comic-Con this week. We have Void Rivals number 11 and Void Rivals number 10 last month, which I'm glad that time seemed to fly by, because the other shoe dropped in Void Rivals number 10. The gems on Derek and Salila's foreheads are energon ports, and that is bonkers. My jaw hit the floor. I was amazed. I need to know what happens next. I have no idea. I don't even know what the solicit says. I would like to see some sort of progress made on Derek and Salila getting to, and I don't remember their names, but the head Agorian and Zertonians, that, you know, sort of resolving this. Well, this great war isn't real. It's all fabricated, and we're now learning that it has to do with energon, which is awesome, because it ties directly into Cybertron and the Transformers book. And it's, I think Kirkman is we gotta call him Chef Kirkman, because he's cooking. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 1. I've never pulled a Ninja Turtles book other than Saturday Morning Adventures. I liked Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Alpha. I mean, I expressed my disappointment that it was essentially a preview book, but that's what these Alpha books are. I like the direction that they're taking here, with Aaron writing the series. So, I mean, I hope that it's sort of all brought together and cohesive fairly soon. It seems like the turtles are a bit scattered right now, which I can be patient and wait. But I also like the Ninja Turtles to be fun and not just stoic and dark, and, you know, the Ninja Turtles don't necessarily need the Batman treatment all the time. So I'm hoping that we get a nice blend of a more serious take of the Ninja Turtles that has some of the charm that made them popular to begin with. So last week's Comics Commute trivia question was the leader of Cowl, Jeffrey Warner, is a former superhero, and what was his superhero name? And the answer is the Raven. So again, I don't think anyone answered it, but we'll get there. That's all right. We're still in the early stages of Comics Commute trivia and the Comics Commute in general. This week's question will have to do with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. In Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Alpha, one of the turtles is in prison and escapes. Which turtle shows up in this first story of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Alpha and escapes from prison? Put your answers on the website. Link is in the description of the video. You still have a chance to win a copy of New Mutants number 87, first appearance of Cable, second printing. I believe that's all I had. So thank you for watching. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe. Share the video if you can, and if you'd like to. I'd like to get these some more reach. I'm going to keep going on them, so see how it goes. Like the video, subscribe, and thank you for watching.